Hello dear viewers, a hearty welcome to each one of you watching this video. I am sure you have been improving your grammar and vocabulary using your videos. This is yet another effort to bring you an interesting account of English literature. Yes, this video brings you a short account of the summary of the greatest English dramatist William Shakespeare's play, The Tempest. The play consists of 5 acts, which are further divided into 9 scenes. So before discussing the summary of the play, let me introduce you what kind of play it is. The play is mainly dealing with the struggle for power. The leading character is the Duke of Milan, Prospero. He was driven away from his dukedom by the conspiracy of his own brother Antonio. He had to live in an isolated island for 12 long years with his daughter Miranda. All his enemies once happened to sail through the island. Seeing this through his magical power, Prospero sent his servant, a spirit named Ariel, to create a tempest in the sea and bring all his enemies to the shore. Let us discuss what actually happened in the island, and if Prospero was able to execute his plans using his magical power. First and foremost, let's discuss the important characters in this play. The first one is the most important, Prospero, the rightful Duke of Milan. Miranda, Prospero's daughter. Ariel, chief of the spirits serving Prospero. Caliban, son of the witch Sycorax and slave of Prospero. Sycorax, the old witch who ruled the island before Prospero came there, and she was also mother of Caliban. Alonso, king of Naples. Ferdinand, son of King Alonso. Claribel, daughter of King Alonso. Sebastian, brother of King Alonso. And Antonio, brother of Prospero, the usurping Duke of Milan. Gonzalo, noble counselor of King Alonso. Adrian and Francisco, noble lords of Naples. Trinquilo is a jester in the king's court, a comedian. And Stefano, a drunken butler. So these are the important characters of the play. So now it's time for us to discuss the summary of the play. So here goes the summary of Act 1, Scene 1. The play opens with a shipwreck. When King Alonso was returning from the wedding of his daughter Claribel, his ship was caught in a terrible storm. The king's son Ferdinand, the Duke of Milan Antonio, king's brother Sebastian, the old counselor Gonzalo, and the noblemen Adrian, Francisco were also with the king. The captain, boatswain, and mariners tried their level best to save the ship from its storm, but they were not able to do so. The king and his associates desperately jumped into the sea to save themselves, while the captain and his fellow men remained in the ship in danger. The king's son Ferdinand was the first to jump into the sea, shouting, "The hill is empty and all the devils are here." Okay, that is a summary of Act 1, Scene 1. Now let's see the summary of Act 1, Scene 2. This is the longest scene in the play and it takes place in front of Prospero's cell. Prospero's cell is a cave made out of a rock. This scene is actually divided into 3 main parts. The first one is Prospero's tale to Miranda, that is his story. Second one, the introduction of Ariel and Caliban in the scene. And the third one, the first meeting of King's son Ferdinand and Miranda. Part 1, Prospero's tale to Miranda. Miranda asked her father to stop the storm if it had been created by his own magic power. She saw some noble creatures struggling in the ship, and being a kind-hearted lady, she asked her father to stop the storm. Prospero assured her that no harm had been done to anyone on the ship, and he started narrating how they both reached this island. and his tale goes as follows. Prospero was the Duke of Milan 12 years ago. As he devoted most of his time to studying philosophy and magic, he wasn't able to take care of the administration of Milan. Milan that time had been the most powerful dukedom in southern Italy. And definitely Prospero was the most powerful duke. Therefore, everyone feared to take any action against Milan. So he entrusted the administration of the state to his brother Antonio, whom he loved more than anything in this world, just next to his beloved daughter Miranda. As time went by, and when Antonio became powerful enough to handle the administration of the state on his own, he became ambitious. He wanted Milan for himself. So he made a secret plan with the king of Naples, Alonso. Alonso was actually a staunch enemy of Prospero. So Alonso agreed to the plan. And in return to this work, he asked for the submission of Milan under his own power. Because Milan had been a free state and Prospero his staunch enemy. Thus, his own brother Antonio made plans to kill Prospero and Miranda, who was not even 3 years old then. And according to their plan, on an appointed night, Prospero and Miranda were taken away and put in a very old-fashioned boat, which was quite unfit for travel by sea. And this whole plan was entrusted to the noble counselor of Naples, Gonzalo, who was kind enough to supply some food, drinks, and clothes for Prospero. He also supplied him with his magic books and philosophy books from the library of Prospero. And by the providence of God, Prospero and Miranda reached this island. Okay, so that is part 1, so which clearly tells us what happened to Prospero and Miranda in Milan and how they reached this particular island. Now we shall see part 2, that is introduction of Ariel and Caliban. Ariel was the spirit which was serving Prospero. Therefore, Prospero called Ariel, and Ariel described how he had created the storm in the sea with great balls of fire, flashes of lightning, and thunder. He further explained how he brought them safely to the shore in small groups. Ferdinand was separated from all others, so he was all alone, very sad. And Trinculo and Stefano were in another part of the island. King Alonso and his associates were in another group. The captain, boatswain, and the sailors were left in the ship, sleeping due to the spell of Ariel. Thus, according to the plan of Prospero, the inmates of the ship were separated into 4 groups. As Ariel is tired of this work, Ariel did not want to do more work, therefore he demanded his freedom. Because Prospero had already promised him that he would give his freedom. But now Prospero became angry and he reminded him how he freed him from the spell of the wicked witch Sycorax, who had controlled the island before Prospero arrived here. And Sycorax imprisoned Ariel into a split pine tree. Ariel was left there howling for 12 long years before Prospero had freed him. Yes, definitely he was howling in pain. Since then, Ariel and his subordinate spirits had been working for Prospero. Prospero promised Ariel that he would be freed if he performed his task promptly. So Ariel, without any complaint, happily hurried away to carry out Prospero's command. Then Prospero and Miranda met Caliban, who was the son of the witch Sycorax. He was considered half human and half monster. On seeing them, Caliban started cursing them and accused Prospero of taking away the island from him. He further expressed that he had shown them all fertile part of the island because they were very kind to him initially. And he also accused them for treating him like a slave and a prisoner in a cave at a corner of the island. The island was actually ruled by Caliban earlier. And Prospero answered him in a fitting manner, telling him that it was all the result of his own villainous action towards Miranda, because he tried to spoil the chastity of Miranda. Prospero then sent him to bring firewood for them, with a warning that he would be punished if he were slow to work. Okay, that is part 2. And let's see part 3. That is the first meeting of Ferdinand and Miranda. Ferdinand was very sad as he believed that his dad, King Alonso, and all his associates were drowned in the sea. When he happened to see Miranda, he wondered if she were the goddess of the island. When he was sure that she was a maid and not a goddess, he proposed that he would make her the Queen of Naples if she wasn't in love with anyone else. However, Prospero didn't want Miranda to be won over easily, though he was very happy about the proposal of Ferdinand. And so he treated him harshly, accusing that Ferdinand was a traitor who had come there to take away the island from him. Ferdinand tried to explain to him that he was not a traitor, but Prospero couldn't believe that. Actually, Prospero didn't want to believe that. Miranda also pleaded with him to release Ferdinand, but it was of no use. Because we know that Prospero had a very clear-cut plan of what should happen next. Ferdinand was so attracted to Miranda that he silently agreed to undergo any trouble for her sake. Okay, that is the end of Act 1. And now let's discuss the summary of Act 2, Scene 1. This scene begins with the king and his associates who survived the shipwreck. They were all bad-tempered and discouraged because of the shipwreck. Gonzalo was trying to cheer up the king, telling him that they were lucky enough to be saved from such a great disaster. The king wasn't convinced, because he was very much sad about the loss of his son Ferdinand. In order to cheer the king up, Sebastian and Antonio also used a series of remarks making fun of Gonzalo. Further, Sebastian accused the king of marrying off his daughter to the prince of Tunis in Africa, even though all others prayed to him to marry her to a European prince. Presently, Ariel appeared in the scene and applied his charm over the party, putting everyone to sleep, except Sebastian and Antonio. So now that only Sebastian and Antonio were awake, and all others were sleeping, Antonio's evil mind made him tempt Sebastian, telling him that he would be the next king of Naples. Sebastian couldn't imagine that, but still, he couldn't resist thinking that in the absence of Ferdinand and Claribel far away in Tunis, he could succeed Alonso to become the king of Naples. However, he wasn't ready to do any harm to the king as intended by Antonio, because he was bothered about his conscience. Antonio dismissed the idea of conscience, saying, "But I feel not this deity in my bosom. 20 consciences that stand twixt me and Milan, candide be they, and melt ere they molest." That is, he was coming to say that even if 20 consciences were standing between Antonio and Milan, before they hurt Antonio, they would melt like candies, melt away like chocolates. Therefore, it's very clear that Antonio was never bothered about conscience. He further insisted that lazy people always remain in the bottom line as they never take the right opportunities. Therefore, they both agreed to draw their swords and kill both Alonso and Gonzalo. In their opinion, the other lords sleeping there will follow their instructions. And all of a sudden, Ariel sang a tune in Gonzalo's ears, waking him up just when the swords were raised. Gonzalo woke up to see the raised swords, and he was just asking what was happening there. And so the conspiracy of Antonio failed. They offered a lame excuse that they heard a loud roar of lions, and in order to protect the king and the associates, they drew their swords. Believing that, they all moved away from the place. Okay, that is the end of Act 2, Scene 1. Now let's see the summary of Act 2, Scene 2. This scene takes place in another part of the island, and the scene begins with Caliban carrying firewood. He was cursing Prospero, and when he saw Trinculo far away, he felt that it was a spirit of Prospero sent to torture him. So he lay down on the ground in order not to be noticed by Trinculo. Trinculo spotted this strange-looking creature Caliban, and in order to escape from a thunder, he crawled into the loose garments of Caliban. Stefano, the drunken butler, also entered the scene. Seeing Caliban trembling, he felt that he had a kind of fever, and in order to cure him, he offered him drinks. Stefano and Trinculo found it very funny when Caliban considered them heavenly people as they possessed heavenly drinks. Caliban planned to take revenge on Prospero by killing him using the power of Stefano, as he believed they were from heaven. And all three were under the effect of alcohol, and Caliban promised to show them every fertile part of the island, provided Stefano became his master. Stefano also promised him to be a master. So Caliban sang happily that he had found a new master and he would never serve Prospero again. That's the end of Act 2. From these two acts, we have come to know how Prospero took control of all his enemies using his magic. He was an accomplished magician and had the power to control the forces of nature. His main plan was to regain his dukedom and to ensure a safe life for his daughter Miranda. We shall discuss how he had planned all this and brought his plans into action in the next video. The next video focuses on the summary of Act 3, 4 and 5. Thank you all for watching this video. Till we meet through the next video, goodbye, stay connected and be benefited. And once again, I thank you all for the continuous support you have been offering to this channel, Shall We Learn. Thank you once again.